Hi, and welcome everyone to the True Safety Podcast, another episode. I'm so grateful that you're here listening with us. My name is Apolonia Rockwell, as you know, and today I'm really excited to have a special guest, George Dovolis, here. And you know what? First of all, George, how are you doing this morning?
Doing very well. Excited.
Yeah,
very well. Good to see you, by the way. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I see George often. We're in the same office building. So George is also out of Colorado. But before I even dive into this, I am so excited to ask you a million questions. But first of all, for the audience, since I have the privilege of knowing you, can you give the audience just a little taste of who you are and, the biggest reason why I wanted to introduce you to the audience is you're an expert, you're you're an industry expert. And I know you've been an entrepreneur for 39 plus years, but what is your background for the audience so they can kind of understand who you are?
Well, it's if we had a lot of time, I can really explain it. But in a very short term, you're right. I've been an entrepreneur for 39 years of my life. Started my own company at 19 years old in Palm Springs, California. Met my beautiful wife there. Been married 32 years. We have two beautiful daughters.
They are awesome. I met one of them.
Yes, you did.
Awesome.
And, and just being an entrepreneur, you really learn a lot of different businesses. You put your hands on a lot of different things. You want to be diversified. And, just being that dad, I wanted to have a better life for my family. So we moved out of California into Colorado about 24 years ago. And didn't know really what I wanted to do, did a bunch of things. And then I got in the construction world and started really getting into it. And then just basically retired from it, stepped away from it. Just because mentally I was getting broken down, physically, same thing. And I just wanted to do things to help others out. And so we're creating a lot of different things, entities, me, my wife, and my family are doing. Having our daughters who are very driven, being an entrepreneur as a female, being very driven, doing things, like our oldest daughter is a holistic practitioner to a pro status makeup artist to my youngest daughter, who you talked to, Danielle, who actually is in the, I would say, what world would that be? She majored in psychology. And so she works for a group who, here in Northern Colorado, and just really just sets the tone what our family is all about. And we're having a blast and we're always moving forward, so.
One thing you highlighted on it just a little bit was that one common thread that I've been able to see in you out of every, hearing your stories and your experiences is that you have a servant mindset and you have a servant heart. And you've built a lot of businesses, you've worked with a lot of people, you've seen a lot. In the construction world specifically, I think that you probably have seen a lot of things done right and a lot of things done wrong. And What advice would you give to a listener that's, in the safety industry, or they're just on a leadership team for a construction company and they're looking to take their company to the next level? They're stuck and they're stuck. Culture. They have a bad. I'll give you a little insight too. Is that I don't believe that companies have safety cultures. I mean, our world is safety, but companies will come to us, owners will come to us, George, and say, "Hey, our safety culture sucks." This is the owner talking to me. Our employees, they don't get it. They're the blame. They're pointing fingers at the employees. Our safety culture sucks. And in my mind, I'm always thinking it's just a company culture. There's not a safety culture. There's not a billing culture. So what would you say, about running companies and the overall cultures? How do you?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. Culture starts from the top. It doesn't start with the employees, the crew. It starts from the top. It really does. I mean, if you're an owner that truly cares about people and understands the culture of that business, you'll have people stay with you 9, 10 years. And if you have and it goes both ways, of course. And then you have companies that I know that have a revolving door. It's about, it's all about the mighty dollar, pushing people to the limit, working 6, 7 days a week and not really being recognized. And what happens when you do things like that, things start to slip, accidents, falls, OSHA, the whole thing about safety goes out the door. And I think a lot of people, a lot of individuals, owners forget that, and you have to really build from the culture from that top to the bottom. And that goes to yourself, to your bookkeeper, to the guy, project managers, to the gentlemen who run crews, the lead men, to the individuals workers, because we get so busy. We're like, we got timelines, we have, your spreadsheets, and okay, the electrician's supposed to be done here, then the plumber, and I think a lot of times people forget that you got to look into your business and see how you can make it feasible, a lot easier on people. So people are not running with their heads off their shoulders trying to get jobs done. And I've been there.
Yeah. You've seen it both ways. You've been on the other side of things where it is your responsibility that you need to line out every single person to make every single deadline, to fulfill contracts for clients. And how do you maintain that while maintaining a good culture overall for your employees? And so how would you say a company that they are struggling on the culture side, and with your advice and I completely agree with you that leadership starts at the top. And so what some advice would you give to get there? Or maybe some advice of what that looks like, because sometimes people just don't know what a healthy organization even looks like. But I know that you've been a part of companies that have been at that elite level. So what did that company look and feel like when ownership is involved?
Well, when you're a large company or a mid-sized company, I mean, if you have a small company like yourself and 4 other individuals, it's easy to start, culture, because you sometimes have to take a step back to see where you're at, right? Are you truly burning? Because what happens, you're burning out your people. If you're burnt out, how do you think your employees feel?
Oh, gosh.
They're burnt out, right?
Everyone's burnt out.
Everyone's burnt out. But I know a lot of companies brought in individuals to bring in and to do just kind of look at the whole picture of their company, and brought individuals in, not part of their company, like from a third party, to see how they can do the business better, how they can really take care of their employees. Not in saying cutting corners, but in a sense that, hey, what we can do. We used to have Christmas parties. Now we don't. Yeah. We used to celebrate everyone's birthday when it came up. Even if it was a card, people want to be recognized when you work for someone for 6 months to 16 years, people want to be respected, knowing that they have value, right? So companies will bring in individuals that understand their business and see how they can better it. And like what your company does, in a sense of making sure that everyone is up to speed with OSHA, making sure that everyone has their safety equipment, correct? And that's a huge part. But when it comes to culture, it really has to begin with the owners to want to do that, to change, but that's why a lot of individuals will hire a third party to bring them in to really look at everything and do assessment, how they can be better. And buy, I'll just use the Best Buy way. Best Buy was built on employee experience, right? if your experience is good as an employee, it will reflect when you talk to a client.
Yeah.
Right? If Best Buy back in the days was always built on taking care of their employees because they knew their employees talked to the clients.
Yeah. They took care. What you're saying is they had the approach of taking care of the team first and the team will take care of the business. And
that is correct.
What I hear you saying too, I mean, that's a lot of great advice. And what I hear you saying is that people at the end of the day, no matter the industry, it doesn't have to be construction, Best Buy, whatever it is, people want to feel recognized and respected. And, being seen, I think that that's a huge thing. And that gets me, it actually sets me up perfectly to the segue of what I really wanted to talk to you about today. So I'm really excited about this, but people just want to feel recognized. And you've seen it go the flip side of when people don't feel recognized, people don't feel respected. You said that's when the overall morale of the company goes downhill. That's when you start seeing accidents and incidents and issues. It's not on the incident side, but just business side. Clients don't get served the way they're supposed to because employees aren't happy. So this leads me, I'm really excited. So for the background for the audience is that just a few weeks ago, I had just got done talking with our Colorado OSHA training institution. And I was talking to the trainers there and talking with other professionals in this industry. And what our industry is shouting from the rooftops is OSHA basics aren't enough. What can we do to prevent fatalities, injuries happening on the job? And so companies have over the last couple of years have really been doing the basics, but it's just not enough. We're still seeing our fatality rates stay stagnant, and mental health has become a huge topic of conversation. And this is when I approached George and I said, hey, I have a wild thought. OSHA mentioned that mental health is something that we need to keep an eye on as unrecognized, as an unseen hazard. And so I was picking George's brain. I'm like, you've worked in this industry. You're an expert. Is mental health something to be talked about in construction? And can you share the audience what you told me? Because it blew my mind.
Well, it gives me goosebumps because, I didn't tell you the last few days, I've been talking to people that work on the field, that work into the oil and the gas industry, and mental health is massive.
What are they saying? Oh my gosh, this is what our audience hear. What are the boots on the ground?
What's crazy is the individuals I work to is that the money's phenomenal, the hours are killer, but what happens is that you're working multiple hours. Just think working 21 hours, 21 days straight, and you're working 12 hours, 13 hours a day. You think it's Sunday and it's really Wednesday. I mean, mentally, you're really losing capability. And see, there's a difference of working construction. Like, I'm going to frame a house. I'm going to frame this bedroom. You're by yourself. The worst thing to do is a 2x4 hit you in the head. What industry that, what true safety does, and the people I talk to, at one individual's mental stage, if they don't get that corrected, can not just take their life, they can take several, right?
Absolutely.
And I think mental stage is huge. When I talk to our daughter, Danielle, who works for companies out here, a privately owned company that talks about mental health and different things and stages in life. And I talked to our daughter, Danielle, and I said, well, let me ask you, out of 10 people, tell me out of those 10 individuals, how many are women? She says 8. How many? All right. So there's 2 left. He goes, Dad, usually their wives calling in for their husbands. See, men like myself were built to not cry, not ask for help, keep moving forward, and everything. And it's taught from our fathers down, right? But mental health is so huge these days. People don't realize, here I am, I'm a 6'5" at 280, and I want to sit down with someone and share my story or do those things, right? Basically what, I just want to figure it out myself, move forward, get things done on my own and correct it. It's not that way anymore. Because some of the guys I've talked to, sometimes it started at the house. Some guys feel like they clock in at work, they clock out at home or at work, and then they head home, they clock in at home, they clock out of home and go. And that's this routine 5 to 6 days a week. And, and it's not about who's to blame. It's when you are in the stage of mindset. Now, granted, I help you all. I don't need to talk to anybody. You're probably the number one that needs to talk. When someone tells me I don't need to talk to anybody,
I'm fine.
They're the number one person that I need to talk to. Because we, as men, we don't want to be looked down upon, have anything that goes against us. But as we talked, if you can sit down with someone, as I brought up to you, sit down with someone who has the third party, it's not hired by the company doesn't know anything. And as I talked to these 5 different individuals, and none of them work for you, 5 different individuals that I talked outside who I know, all of them said they would talk to someone.
Oh my goodness.
If it wasn't any strings attached, and it was just a talk. For someone, a third party would be hired by, say, like your company or someone else's company, for that person to talk to vent, to be a sound wall, not to his buddies. Because it takes one time thinking, man, let's just use this story. My wife, left me, and your mindset is there, because you're doing everything you can as a man. Yeah. But just say something happens that way. Well, we always tell everybody, you got to leave that in the car, in the parking lot. When you come to work, it's all about work. But as human beings, mentally, we don't. We truly try to figure out how we do it. And that's where I truly believe accidents truly happen. I mean, it really does. Even on a smaller job, it still has effect. But in the oil and gas industry, again, it's not just, hurting 1 or 2 people by a wall falling on someone. You can actually, eliminate someone's life just because your mind's not there doing your job. And I think men need to really kind of step up. And you'll see it in the NFL now. Mental health is a big awareness. But like I said, when I talked to Danielle, she'll have wives call in for the husband because the guy, and then he doesnn't even want to go. Because
he doesn't even want to go.
No.
George, my mind is running 100 miles per hour. Something you said, 2 big, huge breakthroughs. And that's one of them, is talking to somebody who works at a behavioral health clinic, is telling you, hey, out of your top clients who are there, she's saying the majority of people that we see are women. Men are not even coming in. And we know that both sides are experiencing their own emotional baggage and need to vent. And why is it that women feel more comfortable versus men going in to talk to somebody? And then the second huge breakthrough that I just heard you say is that to provide the audience some clarity, off camera, George and I were talking about how do we, what is the solution? So we've identified the problem, that mental health that is a problem, and that mental health and the unseen hazards of stress could really be the root cause of most incidents. All right. So I said, what do I do about it? George thought, well, maybe some solutions would be companies having that third party counselors that are just there to listen. What would that look like? And what you just said is that you talked to 10 guys, boots on the ground, and they said if there are 5 guys and all 5 of them said, if my company had a place that I could safely vent to with no strings attached, no records held against you, that they would say, yes, I would like to talk to somebody. That is huge.
Very huge.
My goodness.
Yeah. And just imagine, but see, again, it starts from the top.
They
right?
have to, because
The educational has to start from the top.
because the
And it
ownership
does.
has to believe that is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I was
Ownership has to believe in it.
Mhm. I was talking to on another podcast with a gal that is mind body safety, and I was talking to her about your idea of having a third party counselor, and she said Apolonia here, and their side, they're not from Colorado. She's on the East Coast, I believe, but she said I've seen companies that are implementing this already. And she said, but the owners, exactly how you said, the owners have to believe that this is useful and not the old school ownership mentality of, well, I used to do it. I used to work construction 12, 15 hour days, and look at me, I turned out fine. I mean, that's the mentality that you have to combat, right? So what else are workers really struggling with? Oh, you know what's another, I don't know if I shared this with you, talking with your daughter, and I asked her, what are your average oil and gas and construction worker, what are they coming to the table with? What challenges do they have? She told me anger, stress, and anxiety. And she said the most mind-blowing thing I've ever heard, those three things left untreated could result in symptoms like dementia. I said, Danielle, so you're telling me that guys and girls working in the industry, working in construction, oil and gas, they could be experiencing, they're seeing things that aren't even there because of, and as it relates to incidents, that's what I'm thinking of too. But I mean, so do those words resonate with you, having worked in that industry? Anger, anxiety, stress, that these guys are just walking around with all this baggage on their back, and they're expected to do it all somehow.
Yeah. And you're out, no matter what job it is. And when you own a company or you work for someone, for myself, you strive for what you can do the best you can do. And there's always stress, and there's always anxiety, jobs trying to get done. There's all kinds of different, instruments. But I think mental health is starting to really pick up because of we're a fast pace. When here I'm almost 60 years old, and I remember, at Christmas everything was shut down. You might have a liquor store or a a Thrifty's drugstore open. But now, look at it now. It's all about hustle and bustle. It's all about the dollar, right? And so the stress kicks in. You're working 7 days a week. You're working 6 days a week. You're trying to buy a house. You buy this, you buy that. Then the hours shut down. Instead of working 70 hours a week, you're only working 40. But those bills keep coming in the same amount. And so all that does add stress to it, and then, having from above down, because it rolls downhill, the pressure of trying to get things done. And I think a lot of times when it comes to ownership or management, you need to realize, who you're talking to. You got the guys, wrenching, you got the guys doing things, welding, all the different entities of that industry. And you need to know that mindset. If you don't know where your guys are at, that's a loose cannon.
Do you mean, for the listeners, do you mean you need to understand how much stress, or are you saying we need to, as owners, as leaders, no matter what your title is, you need to try to understand the mental state that your employees are in?
Well, everyone starts from the bottom. Any owner will tell you they started from the bottom, meaning they're the ones digging the holes, welding. They know the stress levels of that industry, right? But when you grow and become just, a standard employee to now a production manager, that stress level between here to production. Absolutely. And you should understand in that area that these guys are underneath a lot of stress, even probably a little bit more. And it's good. I wouldn't say it's good maybe to pull and talk to everyone, to spend a couple hours talking to everybody, find out how everyone's doing. Just not and listen, I'm not licensed, but I know I have life experiences, and being an entrepreneur for 39 years, I've seen it all in a certain degree. But I think people forget to ask, how you doing? And man, you don't look the same. It's different, me and you seeing each other, or I see the guys, but on a large capacity job site, you have to have people there to make sure that guys are good. Safety, everyone's wearing their equipment, the whole works. And just say, hey, how you doing, man? And I think it comes from that ownership down. Now, people disagree with me, but if you truly care about your employees and you truly care about your business, because every employee from the top to the bottom does things for that business to grow.
Yes, everyone.
And you need to take a look at this, because when you're losing friends, 1 minute you work with your buddy, the next day he's not here. And suicide is up because at that mental stage of anxiety. I talked to Danielle. I talked to my daughter who's in the business and talks to people who are on suicide watch. And they're all types of industries, every single one of them, right? And it's because everyone's afraid to talk to. It comes down to it. If you could talk to somebody and said, how's your day?
Yeah.
Or say, I'd like to talk to you, and this one I'm going through.
Yeah.
If the companies can produce someone as a third party, doesn't matter if production manager to a guy who's just digging stuff, it just, he got a shovel in his hand. If you got to have someone that
is there for you,
is there to talk, your crew will be a lot happier. And then there's no judgmental.
Yeah.
It's not in your file. You're not going to get demoted. Your money's the same.
Yeah. There's no record against you.
Yeah.
I think that, George, this is groundbreaking. I think that this is something that is so important. And in my mind, I keep referring it to the unseen hazards. We all know in the safety industry, as the seen as hazards, as the slip, strips, and falls, the fall protection, the PPE, the trenching excavation hazards, but the unseen hazards like stress and anxiety and anger and fatigue and sleep deprivation because of insane work schedules and just the normal stress that thinking about your family and the bills and the kids and this and that. We need to talk about it more. And so to bring this to an end, I just want to say, listeners, a huge takeaway right now that you can apply in your business is George's advice is it could be this conversation can be started simply with asking your employees or your coworker, hey, how are you doing today? And really checking in. If your company doesn't have if you're listening, your company probably doesn't have this third party, service that can, a psychologist, somebody that could be there to vent. And so what we can do right now is to be there for one another, to ask the important questions of how are you doing today on an intentional level. And just be aware that people are fighting battles that we know nothing about, and being kind. And that is a conversation that might be foreign in the oil and gas and construction world, but it's needed clearly. So any final thoughts, George, on how an employee can make a difference in their workplace today, an owner, someone on the leadership, side of a company?
Yeah. I think people need to listen. I know we're all about the hustle and bustle. And, again, I take from my experiences and the people I talk to and the industry I'm in and everything else. And being an entrepreneur, you listen, you have your ear to the ground. And if someone's having a bad day and you hear from someone, it's not to ruffle their feathers or give them a hard time. Just pull it to the side. Sometimes someone just wants to say, hey, are you doing okay?
Yeah.
And really it starts from the top down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to be fun and games about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to tease anyone about it. It's to really take consideration who's running your business.
Mm-hmm.
It's the guys below you. It's not you as the CEO. I mean, I know a ton of CEOs, individuals, and we have the same mindset. If it wasn't for the people that work for us, like together, I wouldn't be here, or my family wouldn't be here today. I mean, it's because we got to take care of the people who take care of us, and make sure when they do see their clients and your clients that they're excited to be a part of what you do, and the clients see that, and it becomes more business. It just starts to follow each other and move forward. And I just say, just listen, don't laugh about it, because it can hit home. Mm-hmm. It not even hit as an employee, but it can actually hit home. Wow. And
right.
Yeah, it can. It can be right next to you. And so it's good to listen up and start doing a change. Yeah. Start moving that way. That's what I would say. That would be the best advice I can give to anyone, is start moving forward with it.
Starting with listening. I love it.
Listening.
I really, really appreciate your time today, George. Everyone,
thank you.
Oh my goodness. Yes. We'll definitely be continuing on with this conversation in another part 2 series, but thank you so much for your time. Listeners, we're going to connect George's profiles to get in touch with him. If you had any further questions or any comments regarding this topic, then you will be able to contact him. But thank you everyone for listening today. Have an amazing rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Apolonia. You're beautiful as ever. You have a rock solid day yourself, dear. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.